NASA detected a mysterious object speeding toward Earth, and some actual bona fide experts think it might not be your typical space rock, or maybe any kind of rock, or a natural phenomenon at all.
While scientists worldwide were monitoring this enigmatic interstellar object on November 2nd, 2025, unrealistic things happened to the Visitor 3E Atlas. Another anomaly was found by Gennady Boris, the same astronomer who found humanity's second interstellar object in 2019. However, it wasn't merely traveling through our solar system this time. It was traveling between Earth and the 3I Atlas, and its actions made the latter appear unremarkable in contrast. This film will completely upend your preconceived notions about intergalactic objects, and it's just the beginning, the initial enigma. Let's begin with the obvious. NASA's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System found 3 Atlas on July 1st, 2025. Astronomers were immediately aware that something was wrong. This comet wasn't just another one traveling through our cosmic neighborhood. Being the third interstellar object ever found, it originated from a completely different star system. However, Atlas wasn't following the rules. The speed comes first. This item is traveling at an absurdly high speed, faster than Oumuamua, the mysterious cigar-shaped asteroid that confused astronomers in 2017. However, speed by itself doesn't make something unusual, does it? The trajectory of the 3I Atlas is what makes it unusual. The orbital eccentricity of the object is 6.14. Now, eccentricity is essentially a measurement of an orbit's degree of stretch. The eccentricity of a complete circle is 0. The orbit of the Earth is 0.17, almost round. The eccentricity of Hall's comet, which loops far beyond Neptune, is just N67. However, Atlas has a 6.14. That is the highest eccentricity we have ever seen in an object. Its trajectory across our solar system is nearly exactly straight, as if someone used a ruler to draw a line and instructed, "Go that way." However, it doesn't end there. Astronomers discovered something else as they continued to observe. 3 Atlas has a pulse that is referred to as a heartbeat. Its brightness fluctuates in a consistent cyclic manner every 16.16 hours. That's strange enough on its own, but it became increasingly bluer as the 3 Atlas approached the sun. That is not correct, because the dust they emit scatters light differently. Comets usually get redder as they warm up. Blue indicates that something else is going on that we don't fully comprehend. Additionally, scientists found what appear to be cryovolcanoes on its surface, which are frozen volcanoes that erupt and launch material into space. And spectroscopic examination showed a metal-rich interior that defies conventional theories of comet genesis. Since comets have been traveling for millions of years, they are thought to be filthy snowballs. Here's the worst part, though. Non-gravitational acceleration is displayed by the 3 Atlas. Like Oumuamua, it is changing speed without any discernible gravitational help. And that raises some awkward questions, much like with Oumuamua. On October 29, 2025, this object came closest to the Sun. We refer to that as perihelion. This is the start of the Grand Tour. At a distance of roughly 28 million kilometers, 3E Atlas will fly in close proximity to Mars. At 97 million kilometers, it will then pass Venus. Additionally, it will pass Jupiter at a mere 53 million kilometers on its way out. However, when 3I Atlas is closest to Earth, we will be on the exact opposite side of the Sun. It will become invisible to our telescopes in October and won't be visible again until December. Specifically on December 19th, 2025, when it approaches Earth the closest at a distance of 170 million miles. While some would describe that as a coincidence and others as suspicious, the truth is far greater than we could have ever dreamed. The theory of aliens. This is where Avi Loeb, a Harvard astrophysicist, comes into play. Loeb is currently a contentious figure in astronomy. He is the one who proposed that Oumuamua might have been an extraterrestrial spaceship, a theory that was mocked by a large portion of the scientific community. Loeb, however, is not easily persuaded. Lowe proposed in a report this year that there's a 30 to 40% chance that the 3i map isn't totally natural. Furthermore, he isn't only tossing that number out at random. He is examining a technique known as the Ober-Earth move. This is the concept. A spacecraft can leverage its close proximity to a huge object, such as the sun, to execute a movement known as a gravity assist or slingshot. To get the most out of your investment, start your engines at the precise moment when you are closest to the sun. Compared to firing your engines in outer space, you can adjust direction or speed far more effectively thanks to the sun's gravity, which amplifies your thrust. The fact that 3i Atlas completed its perihelion while concealed from Earth's view behind the sun is considered questionable. That would be the ideal moment to change your course without being noticed. The alignments come next. Mars, Jupiter, and Earth were aligned with 3i Atlases at statistically unlikely angles. Lowe determined the likelihood that these alignments would occur spontaneously. The result was less than 0.005%. That is really uncomfortable, but it is not impossible. Now, think about this before you write it off as conspiracy theory gibberish. The government agency in charge of looking into suspected anomalous phenomena, the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARO, revealed that they are keeping an eye on 3 Atlas. Just so you know, comets are not typically a worry for ARO. That's not typical then. XMR Trace Gas Orbiter, Hubble, James Webb, Maven at Mars, the Psyche spacecraft, the Lucy mission Stereo, SOHO, Punch, and the JUICE spacecraft. Everybody's eyes are focused on one thing. Why are such strong denials necessary? Why spend so much money on a comet alone? However, something else occurred as the world was taking in NASA's promises. The second finding, November 2nd, 2025, Crimean amateur astronomer Gennady Borisov spots an odd object traveling through space. Nowadays, amateur astronomers typically make constant discoveries. It's not especially noteworthy. However, Boris is not your typical amateur astronomer. In 2019, he made the discovery of 2i Borisov, the second interstellar object ever found. And now, only 6 years later, he has found yet another extremely strange item. To honor its discoverer, Borisov was added in parentheses to the new object's name, C2025V1. It was immediately apparent that this comet was not like the others. Let's start by discussing position. The distance between Earth and 3-2 Atlas is being traversed by a C2025V1. Not between the two, not in front of it, not behind it. The second path. The orbital eccentricity of the object is 1.0096. This indicates that it is not constrained by the gravity of the sun. It's going through. However, C2025V1 may possibly be from our own root cloud, that far-off shell of frozen objects at the frontier of our solar system, in contrast to the 3 Atlas, which originated from the galaxy's vast disk. This is when things get extremely weird. The computations are still being worked out. The orbital inclination of C2025V1 is 112.7 degrees. This indicates that it is traveling nearly perpendicular to the 3i Atlas. It is uncommon, but not impossible for two objects with perpendicular orbits to appear in the same observational window in a random universe. However, the timing, the missing tails, the strange behavior, and patterns begin to show when you mix it with everything else. The appearance comes in third. C2025V1 lacks a suitable cometary tail, just like 3i Atlas. Its tight, subdued coma structure differs greatly from what we would anticipate from comets. Due to its faintness, magnitude 13.8, telescopes are needed for observation. C2025V1 was first accepted by scientists as a control experiment. They believe that we would have a typical comet to contrast with 3 Atlas. That will enable us to comprehend the peculiarities of 3 Atlas. However, C2025V1 is also abnormal. It exhibits the same peculiar traits. The anticipated gas stories are absent from both pieces. Both exhibit peculiar patterns of brightness. They both emerged within the same brief period of time. The two oddities have different origins, the same window, and no obvious explanation. At that point, Avi Lowe revealed something shocking: the theory of mothership. Lowe posed a query in a Medium essay that most scientists wouldn't dare ask aloud. Is it possible that the mothership C-2025 V1 used 3-2 Atlas as a probe? Alternatively, is it possible that C-2025 V1 was deployed by 3-2 Atlas? Although it seems ridiculous at first, Lowe carefully lays out his logic. First, communication between the two objects is facilitated by the orbital geometry. The best angles for observation and data transmission are produced by their perpendicular paths. You would arrange your assets at various angles to optimize coverage if you were planning a reconnaissance expedition to explore a solar system. Second, despite exhibiting outgassing indicators that point to comparable compositions or propulsion systems, neither of which we completely comprehend, both objects lack typical contrary tails. Third, both exhibit signs of non-gravitational acceleration. Their velocities are being altered by something other than basic gravitational interactions. The timing comes in fourth. The discovery of C-2025 V1 coincided with the disappearance of 3I Atlas from Earth perspective behind the Sun. If you wanted to coordinate between two spaceships, you would do it covertly during that precise window. A Trojan horse scenario is another idea that Lowe brings up. What happens if one natural thing is being used as a cover by another? An artificial probe is concealed by a real interplanetary comet. Discussions regarding the deployment of tiny probes, the sending of explorers into space by civilizations that are billions of years old, and the implications of being watched erupted on social media. Here's the problem, though. Lowe doesn't claim it's unquestionably aliens. He is arguing that we should consider the evidence objectively. Furthermore, the data at least points to a highly exceptional occurrence. According to Lowe, the crucial test is searching for intentional propulsion in the C-2025 V1. Everything changes if we are able to identify non-gravitational acceleration that cannot be attributed to outgassing. Why is the C-2025 V1 unusual? Why, therefore, is the C-2025 V1 stranger than the 3I Atlas? Let's dissect it. The origin mystery comes first. According to preliminary estimations, C-2025 V1 has an interplanetary origin because of its hyperbolic orbit. However, more accurate calculations currently indicate that it may possibly come from our report cloud, making it an almost interstellar object. It is in between being a native of the solar system and a cosmic visitor. However, why does it act like an interplanetary object if it is from the Oort cloud? Why is its eccentricity so much lower than 3 atlases if it is interstellar? The perpendicular paradox comes in second. The orbit of C-2025 V1 is 113 degrees inclined with respect to the solar system's plane. The inclination of a 3-eyed atlas is entirely different. The two orbits are almost perpendicular to one another. We would refer to that as orthogonal in statistics. Practically speaking, this indicates that these objects are sampling our solar system from entirely new perspectives. That is precisely how you would arrange your observers if you were carrying out a coordinated observation expedition. Composition comes in third. We anticipated that C-25 V1 would exhibit the typical Oort cloud composition, which includes a lot of water, ice, carbon dioxide, and methane. Rather, it exhibits anomalies akin to those found in the 3I Atlas. Absence of a water vapor trace. Unusual ratio of gas to dust. Both objects exhibit comparable defiance of conventional comet models. The fourth coincidence in time. On November 2nd, C-2025 V1 was found. On November 11th, it came the closest to Earth. November 16th was its perihelion. This produces a timetable that exactly coincides with the trip through the inner solar system of the 3I Atlas. It looks like November and December of 2025 will be the most unusual months in astronomy since Oumuamua appeared 8 years ago. That date is December 19th, 2025, the December convergence. At that point, 3 Atlas is 170 million miles from Earth and makes its closest approach. At that point, we will be able to simultaneously observe both objects to the fullest extent possible. These two guests will be the focus of every significant telescope in orbit and on Earth. Data on composition, trajectory, unusual behavior, and any indications of intentional action will be gathered. There are three possible outcomes. In the best circumstance, both objects continue to behave correctly. Natural processes that we have never seen before can account for the oddities we have seen. The enigma is resolved. Everyone is content when they return home. We find more irregularities in the case situation. Increased non-gravitational acceleration and inexplicable variations in brightness or trajectory are signs that these things are more complicated than we first believed, but it is still unclear if they are man-made or natural. In the worst case, we find evidence of synchronized movements, communication signals, coordination amongst the objects, and the deployment of new items, all of which cannot be explained by natural processes. As December draws near, a vibe advises us to keep an eye out for any strange activity. December will show what 3I Atlas ejected during its concealed perihelion. This is when we'll see any directed activity if there are a lot of probes. Globally, amateur astronomers are getting ready. 3I Atlas is located close to the star Regulus in the constellation Leo. It is possible, but it requires a dark sky and at least a 12-inch telescope. You're able to observe it. Astronomy has previously benefited greatly from citizen science. Comets, asteroids, and even planets orbiting other stars have been found by amateur astronomers. NASA won't be the only ones keeping an eye out if something out of the ordinary occurs in December. The same area of the sky will be the focus of thousands of eyes worldwide. The skeptics are retaliating. Naturally, not everyone is persuaded. There is still a strong consensus among mainstream scientists. Both items are organic. To be fair, they make compelling arguments. First of all, comet behavior is unexpected by nature. Thousands of comets have been witnessed, and they all exhibit strange behaviors. Unexpected thrust may result from outgassing. Depending on the comet's formation location and time, its chemical makeup varies greatly. Something is not always fake just because we haven't seen it before. Sample size comes in second. Only 3 interplanetary objects have ever been found. That is a very small sample. The range of normal for interplanetary comets is unknown to us. Perhaps they're all strange. We may not yet be aware that 3.2 Atlas and C2025E1 are entirely typical for objects from other star systems. Additionally, we are examining the absence of artificial signals. Radio telescopes have been aimed at these objects. There were no ordered patterns, no communications, and no indications of technology. Wouldn't these be communicating if they were extraterrestrial probes? Wouldn't we notice something? Next is composition. Both substances have spectral fingerprints that are typical of organic chemicals, ice, rock, and natural materials. Nothing that makes it obvious that it was made. Finally, Avi Loeb has a history of making contentious assertions about aliens. The scientist who cried wolf is him. Many astronomers stopped considering Oumuamua's extraterrestrial theory after his death. Skeptics contend that the coincidences are just that, coincidences. Boris is an expert observer with top-notch gear. He has found several comets. He searches for odd objects. Even doubters acknowledge that the oddities are unprecedented. A middle ground is beginning to emerge. What we may refer to as something weird is occurring, although we are unsure of the exact situation. Alternative natural causes are being investigated by certain scientists. It's possible that these objects represent a novel kind of interstellar comet with distinct formation histories. It's possible that both of them were recently drawn from interstellar space by the sun's gravitational pull. Some of the similarities could be explained by the possibility that they were expelled from the same star system at various times. Numerous oddities could be explained by the cryovolcano theory. These objects may be outgassing in ways that don't form visible tails, but yet generate thrust if they have internal heat sources. Conventional comet models are called into question by the metal-rich interior notion. Perhaps, however, our understanding of how comets develop in other star systems is simply incorrect. The dark comet hypothesis is one such theory. Items that contain organic compounds and ice yet don't emit any visible gases. They are present. They They are engaged. With the present sensors, we just cannot perceive the action. What happens if they are organic? For the time being, let's suppose the skeptics are correct. Both objects are uncommon instances of interstellar comets, although they are entirely natural. What does science stand to gain from that? It indicates that our knowledge of the cosmos is undergoing a revolution. 3I Atlas seems to have come from the Milky Way's thick disk, which is an area with older, more dispersed stars. If that is the case, this object may be a remnant of the early universe and be between 7.6 and 14 billion years old, older than our solar system. It is therefore a time capsule, the unique, non-earthly method of studying material from old star systems. We could discover information on the chemical makeup of star systems that originated during the early stages of the universe, as well as planetary formation processes from billions of years ago. If verified, the cryovolcanism would revolutionize our knowledge of geological activity on tiny bodies. We believed that big planets with internal heat were necessary for volcanism. Everything is altered when it is discovered on comets. Our ideas of how solar systems form are called into question by the metal-rich interiors. If the makeup of comets from other stars differs significantly from our own, it implies that the development of stellar systems is more varied than previously thought. Furthermore, the fact that several interstellar objects have been found in a matter of years indicates that they are more frequent than previously believed. It's possible that visitors from other stars are swimming in our solar system. Simply said, we've never had the instruments to witness them. This science is revolutionary. Whether they're natural or not, these items are rewriting textbooks. What if they're not real? But what if Low is correct? What if, in spite of all the difficulties, an ancient civilization sent these man-made items? Then, we are experiencing the most significant period in human history. The inquiries would be overwhelming and instantaneous. Who dispatched them? What are they trying to accomplish? Are they watching us? Are they able to communicate? What comes next? If they are probes from a highly developed civilization, their technology is probably millions or billions of years ahead of ours. They are proficient in interstellar travel. They have endured long enough to transport explorers throughout the cosmos. They may have been observing us for a very long time. This relates to a theory known as the zoo hypothesis. The notion that sophisticated societies are aware of us but decide not to meddle, watching us in the same manner as we may watch animals in a natural area. There would be significant ramifications for the government's response. If these are man-made, they could be dangerous or at the very least an unidentified component. It would be necessary to activate planetary defense protocols in order to determine what they are doing and whether they are a threat rather than to kill them. The public's response would be erratic. For some, it would validate their spiritual or religious convictions. Others would be shattered. Society would have to deal with the reality that we're not alone, that we might be being watched, and that everything we believe to be true about our role in the world is false. There is no scientific process for researching possible manufactured artifacts. As we go, we will be making it up. How can you examine something that could be intended to evade all types of analysis? How do you communicate with something that might not want to respond? Scientists are kept up at night by these questions. Both of these things are still in the open while we record this movie. 3I Atlas is moving quickly toward its near approach on December 19th. After completing its perihelion, C-2025 V1 is being monitored as it departs. Are they connected? Are they observing us? Do they even know one another? We may have more questions or answers by the time you watch this. There's no denying that the universe has become much stranger. Additionally, two enigmatic visitors are composing a story that we are just starting to read someplace out there between Earth and the stars. We're going to find out whether that tale concludes with new civilizations or fresh scientific discoveries. Keep an eye out.